This is Brad from Argali, and I'm going to show you how to set up our Selway 6P tent. All right, so we got some nice Scottish conditions here for this, which is great, because this is how you might be setting up your tent if you're out hunting. All right, so first thing you want to do is just kind of lay out your tent. You know, with the 6P, you have a big footprint. So you want to figure out where you want your doors and just kind of get it set up to visualize the space here. And I can tell already I've got a door unzipped here. You want to make sure your doors are zipped up. So I'm going to pull this out. Kind of walk around, get the corners out just so you can make sure the tent fits the space that you're going to have it in. And I'm also kind of grabbing the four corners of the tent here, kind of make sure that the flattest part of this ground is going to be on the where I want my sleeping pads to go. One more quick adjustment. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. So now what you're gonna wanna do as you're setting this up, just like all of our other tents, you can see you have kind of a rectangular shape here. You're gonna wanna take the four corners of the tent, and that's what you're gonna stake out first. Then we're gonna put the center pole inside the tent, and then you're gonna stake out the doors, and then you're gonna stake out the ends. And you really kind of wanna do it in an opposing fashion, which we'll talk about here in a second. But first, we're gonna stake out the four corners. And as we do that, it's really important, you wanna get a square-ish rectangle, get it as square as you can. You don't want to pull the ends out too tight. You want to leave them a little bit loose. And what that's going to allow you to do is get a nice tall peak height to make sure you get those nice steep walls on your tent. So I'm going to start with this side over here. And I like to, you want to make sure that the paracord on your line lock adjusters is about the same distance. So I'm gonna pull the paracord for our purposes all the way, or most of the way in, leave about 2 inches on my loops on the outside here, and then throw a stake in the ground. Do the same thing over here. I'm gonna adjust this paracord. Got about 2 inches of room right here. Throw it through here. And you can see I'm gonna pull this end. If you can see here, I'm gonna pull the tent kind of tight, just so I know what it looks like. Then I'm gonna let it relax. So it's not super loose, but you can see that when that stake goes in, it's not really tight either. And now I'm gonna kind of visualize a rectangle here. And if you don't get it just right, it's okay, but you want to try and get it as square as you can, because that's going to get you a nice perfect pitch. And the nice thing about these line lock adjusters is you can adjust them, or use them to adjust the pitch of the tent to get it where you want it to be. Again, see how I've got a square. If you look at the tent here, not super tight, but taut enough. Last corner. See that snow starting to accumulate? Couple inches. And the last thing I'd say is when you're using the paracord on the line locks, you want to make sure the tension of your stake, as much as you can, is pulling straight down the seam and out the end here, okay? So I'm going to try and visualize how this tension is going to, or this stake is going to come off over here. And I can already tell that this end needs to come that way a little bit to make it square. So I'm gonna pull that over a little bit before I put the center pole in. There we go. Okay, I've already assembled my center pole. I like to start with the adjustment kind of somewhere near the top so that your pole is kind of short. I'm gonna unzip the door, throw this thing inside. And then when I pitch this thing, you want your tent, your pole, to have some nice tension on your seams, but you don't want to push it up so hard that it's just like as tight as it can get. Not yet. We'll do that here as a last step. And I can tell, you can see how these seams are kind of tight, but you can see there's a lot of slack. So I'm going to bump it up one more notch and even one more notch after that. So nice kind of taut seams right here. You can see that, but it's not, I'm not pushing it up so much that it looks like the stakes are bursting to come out of the ground. So now I'm gonna close the door. I'm gonna take a look at my corner seams right now to see how they look, make sure there isn't one seam that doesn't look like it's like bowing in. And they all look pretty good right now. If I did have, let's say, one seam right here that was bowing in, that wasn't, they were uneven, so you have one that's tight and one that looks loose, what I would do is right now I'd probably adjust the tension on one of these guy out points, either loosen the guy out point that's tight and then tighten the one that is loose, and a little bit of an adjustment and you can get that pulled out really easily. Okay, so next step, I'm gonna do the doors. And when you're at this point, you really wanna do what I call opposing guy out. So you do one door and then you do the other door, then you're gonna do one end of the tent and then the other end of the tent. And that way you're pulling the tent in opposite directions, and that'll just help you as you guy it out, and just gonna help you get that nice even pitch all the way around. So I'm gonna pull this door snug, but not like crazy tight, because I don't want to pull the tent over too far this way before I get a chance to do the other door. And remember, we'll get a chance to really pull on these line lock adjusters at the end here too. Okay, same thing on this one. The other thing at this point in time you want to think about is like which side of this door are you gonna be coming in and out of? Do you wanna open? So if I know I want this flap to go back because I'm gonna have my sleeping bag and pad on the left, obviously you're gonna guy out the guy out point on the left side of the door. And if you wanna do the opposite, if you want this side to be the one that's always open, then you're gonna guy out the right side. Okay, snug that up. And I'm pulling it snug, but not like crazy tight yet, okay? We'll have a chance to come back and do that here once we get all the main points guyed out. Okay, now I'm gonna come on the short ends here, pull these out, shake the snow off a little bit, pull a couple inches out, snug that up, guy that out, walk to the other side. Actually, you know what? This is a good example. I've noticed right now this seam right here is a little looser than this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that one just a little bit, and I'm going to loosen this one just a hair. This is where these line lock adjusters are just super handy, especially for a big tent like this, because it's just so hard to get the pitch perfect, get it perfectly square. And especially if you're on a little bit uneven ground like we are here. And you can see like right already, like this, now these seams are like perfectly symmetrical. They have the same amount of tension, and it's right where I want it to be. Okay, I'm gonna pull this out. Snow's starting to gather. All right, so now we've got a nice tight tent. Now we've got these midway guy out points, and I'm just gonna kind of finish guying out the tent here all the way around. Push that in. Oops. As I walk around, I'll show you here, we've got this wind or snow skirt on our tents here. So you can see that the guy out point is actually cheated up the tent all the way around the tent, about 3 inches from the bottom. So you've got this hem along the bottom, which is gonna block any wind and snow from blowing inside your tent. Okay, last couple guy out points. And it is important, especially when you got snow, like you can see how this snow's just shedding off the tent. When you have any sort of snow, you really do want to guy out all the guy out points along the bottom of the tent here. And then we have these additional guy out points all the way along the outside of the tent. For a really good pitch, especially in snowy conditions, to create the most vertical space inside the tent, I really do recommend using the additional guy out points. And the more vertical you can make these, the better. So if you can, I didn't bring any right now, but you can use a trekking pole or a stick, put that stick in the ground and pull it to pitch this out, and then the stick can pitch down. It just helps create more vertical space inside the tent. Hold on, Jason, I need to grab one more steak. One more steak. Last one here. Okay. So that's pretty much it. If at this point in time I felt like there was some slack in the tent, or I wanted to pop the center pole up another notch to create some more tension or increase the vertical walls a little bit, I could do that. But this tent is pitched pretty well right now. It's about as good as it's going to get, especially for the uneven terrain we're working with right now. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.